They thought they could break me, walk all over me like they always had. But what they didn't realize was that my quiet nature wasn't weakness. It was a storm waiting to unleash on the family who tried to steal my inheritance and my peace. You know how some families have a black sheep? Yeah, that's me, Jason. I'm 27, and I've always been the quiet one, the observer. People mistake that for being weak or easily pushed around. They never seem to grasp that silence doesn't mean surrender. I guess that's why they felt entitled enough to pull the stunt they did a few weeks ago. It all started after Grandpa passed. He'd been sick for a while, but it didn't make losing him any easier. Grandpa was the heart of our family, the kind of man who filled every room with stories, who could fix anything, and who, somehow, made you feel like you were the most important person in the world when he talked to you. He wasn't just a grandfather to me. He was a friend, a mentor, the only one who never made me feel less than just because I wasn't as loud or successful as my siblings. His passing left a huge hole in me, one I really didn't know how to fill. Then, a few months after the funeral, I got a call from his lawyer. To my absolute shock, Grandpa had left his house to me. Just me. Not my parents. Not my sister Katie, who at 32 thinks she's the second coming of Marie Kondo with her decluttering empire. And definitely not my brother Josh, 30, still living off sporadic crypto wins and Dad's retirement fund. Nope, just me. The house, the land, everything. And this wasn't just some sentimental fixer-upper. This place was worth serious money. I'm talking nearly 7 figures in a rapidly developing part of town. Developers have been circling for years. Honestly, I didn't know what to say to the lawyer. Grandpa had hinted a couple of times that he wanted the house to stay in the family, that he didn't trust anyone else to take care of it, but I never imagined he'd write it into his will like this. Still, I didn't tell anyone. Not right away. Something deep down told me to keep it close, like carrying a lit match through a dry forest. My family, they don't handle surprises well, especially when money's involved. So I waited. I read that will front to back, highlighted things, reread paragraphs a dozen times. Grandpa had made it airtight. I leave my home, the entirety of the estate, and all that resides within it to my grandson Jason. It is my wish that he maintain its integrity and ensure it is not sold or divided for personal gain. There was, in his handwriting, witnessed, notarized. No loopholes. No ambiguity. About a week after I'd quietly started moving some of my stuff into the house, the phone rang. "Hey, Jace." Katie's voice chirped, that falsely sweet tone she uses when she wants something. "Mom said you've been staying at Grandpa's house. Is that like a thing now?" I told her yes, it was a thing. Grandpa had left it to me. Silence. Then a light, disbelieving laugh. "Wait, seriously? I thought Mom and Dad were figuring that out. Like what to do with it." "No," I said, "it's mine. It was in the will." More silence. Then a curt, "Huh," and she hung up. Just like that. The next day, a text from Mom. Family talk. She always called it that when we were kids, and someone messed up. It never meant a discussion. It meant a group lecture. I agreed to come over, figuring it was better to face it head on. But I wasn't ready for the full ambush. They were all there. Mom, Dad, Katie, Josh, sitting in the living room like they were staging an intervention. Katie stood up the moment I walked in. "Hey, Jace," she said, flashing that tight, practice smile she uses when pitching a client. "Thanks for coming. We've been talking, and we just want to clear the air." I sat down, my chest already tightening. "About the house," Katie continued. "It's just such a big asset, you know? And we were thinking it's only fair that we all benefit from it." "Benefit?" I asked. Mom jumped in. "Your grandfather would have wanted the whole family to be taken care of, Jason. You know how generous he was. He wouldn't have wanted that house to just sit there while the rest of us struggle." "I'm not letting it just sit there," I said slowly. "I live there. I'm maintaining it." Katie crossed her arms. "Yeah, but we were thinking maybe we sell it, split the money. It could help Josh pay off some debts, help me expand my business, help Mom and Dad finally go on that trip they've been dreaming of." Everyone wins. Josh nodded like a bobblehead. It's not like you need the whole house. You don't even use half the rooms. I just stared at them, trying to wrap my head around their entitlement. You know what the will says. Dad sighed. We just think you're being a bit selfish here, son. And that's when I pulled it out. I had brought a copy of the will, just in case. Something told me I'd need it. I unfolded it carefully, laid it on a coffee table. Then I guess you haven't read this part. I pointed to the section detailing Grandpa's wishes in plain ink. Not just that the house was mine, but that it was never to be sold or divided for profit. That he trusted me to preserve it. For a few seconds, total silence. Then, everything exploded. Katie snatched the paper, reading it like she was searching for a misprint. Josh started rambling about how I must have manipulated Grandpa in his last days. Mom started crying, real tears, and Dad said something about how this family was falling apart. The living room turned into a courtroom, everyone talking over each other, accusing, guilt-tripping, yelling. I just sat there, not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I wanted them to say everything first. Let all spill out. The entitlement, the resentment, the pure disbelief that Grandpa would choose me, the quiet one, with something so important. That night wasn't just a family argument. It was the beginning of something way darker. I started noticing things. People watching the house. Missing mail. Whispers. Then came the accident that made me realize they weren't going to stop at words. After that night, I didn't go back to my parents' house for a while. I needed space, not just physically, but mentally. I left a copy of the will behind on purpose. Let them stew on it. Let them read it a dozen times and twist it in their heads. Maybe they'd realize they couldn't pressure me. Or maybe they'd double down. Spoiler, they doubled down. At first, things were quiet. Too quiet. I kept waiting for a call, a text, some passive-aggressive Facebook post from Katie about selfish people who inherit what they didn't earn. But nothing came for about 2 weeks. It was like I'd been ghosted by my entire family. And weirdly, that made it worse. It's one thing to deal with yelling and guilt trips. It's another to sit in the eye of a storm, knowing it hasn't passed. It's just getting ready to hit harder. Then the little thing started. First, my mail went missing. Not everything, just the important stuff. Bank statements, a package I was expecting, even a utility bill. I thought it was a mistake. Checked with the post office. My address was correct. No holds. Nothing flagged. Then came the visitor. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was working from home, freelance graphic design, nothing glamorous, but it pays the bills, and I heard a knock. Not the casual kind. The kind that says, I know you're in there, and I'm not leaving. I opened the door to Mr. Donnelly, one of Grandpa's old neighbors. He looked uncomfortable, almost sheepish. Hey, Jason, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. Listen, I probably shouldn't be getting involved, but your mom came by last night. I blinked. She did. He nodded. Yeah, said she was checking on the property. Wanted to make sure the transition was going smoothly. Transition. She made it sound like the house was still in probate, like it wasn't really mine yet. I just stared at him, feeling my stomach drop. I knew my mom could be manipulative, but I didn't think she'd straight up lie to a neighbor who'd known Grandpa for over 30 years. She asked if I'd seen anyone suspicious around the place, Donnelly added. Like maybe someone had broken in. I didn't think much of it at first, but I figured I should tell you. I thanked him and shut the door, heart pounding. That night, I installed cameras. Front yard, backyard, side alley, even one above the garage. Sure enough, 3 nights later, I got my first hit. Around midnight, motion was detected on the camera near the side gate. I checked the feed, and there he was, Josh. Hoodie on, phone flashlight in hand, fiddling with the gate like he was trying to pick the lock or find a loose latch. I didn't confront him. Not yet. I wanted to be sure. I saved the footage and watched as he gave up after a minute, cursed under his breath. Yes, I could hear it, and walked back toward his car, parked a block down the street. The next morning, I sent the clip in a group text. Just a link. No caption. No one replied. Not even Katie, who normally can't help herself when things get messy. That same afternoon, a knock on the door. This time my dad. He didn't even say hello. Just stood there, arms crossed. "Jason, this is getting out of hand." I raised an eyebrow. "This? You mean your son trying to break into my house?" He didn't flinch. "He was just trying to talk to you. You've shut everyone out." I laughed. I couldn't help it. He was trying to talk to me by sneaking in through the gate at midnight. Dad sighed. "You gotta understand. This house means a lot to all of us. Your grandfather, he wasn't in his right mind near the end. He'd been sick, confused. There was the narrative shift. They tried guilt. They tried sweet-talking. Now, they were trying to rewrite history." "Don't do that," I said quietly. "Don't disrespect him just because you didn't get what you wanted." Dad's face darkened. "You're making a mistake, Jason. You're dividing this family." "No," I said. "You did that the second you tried to guilt me out of something Grandpa clearly wanted me to have." And I shut the door. But I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I kept the lights off and watched the cameras, paranoid that someone else would try to pay me a visit. My mind kept racing with what ifs. What if they try to break in again? What if they forged documents? What if they found some obscure legal trick to challenge the will? Then just when I thought things might calm down again, I got the letter. It came in a plain white envelope, no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed formal. "Dear Jason, we as a family have decided to dispute the validity of the last will and testament of your grandfather. We believe he was not of sound mind, and that the will does not reflect his true intentions. Consider this letter a formal notice of our intent to pursue legal action unless a fair resolution can be reached outside of court." My hand started shaking. They were actually going to do it. They were going to drag me into court. They were going to tear Grandpa's name apart, claim he was senile, accuse me of manipulation just to get their hands on something they felt entitled to. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just about a house anymore. It was war, and I wasn't going to play defense forever. After I read the letter, I sat in that living room, Grandpa's living room, for what felt like an hour, just staring at the wall where he used to hang that framed black and white photo of him and Grandma. I could almost hear his voice in my head, chuckling the way he used to when someone in the family got too big for their britches. He always said, "There's a reason I don't trust everyone with a spare key, Jace. People show their true colors when money's involved." And he was right. I wasn't angry in the way you might think. I wasn't yelling or breaking things or pacing around. What I felt was deeper, slower, colder. It was betrayal wrapped in paperwork. This wasn't just a petty argument anymore. My family had drawn up legal threats against me. They were ready to drag Grandpa's name through the mud if it meant they might win, and they thought I'd fold under pressure. They had no idea who they were dealing with. The next morning, I set up a meeting with Grandpa's lawyer, Mr. Henley, a no-nonsense man in his 70s with tired eyes but a razor-sharp mind. He'd been Grandpa's friend and attorney for decades. The office still smelled like old leather and coffee, the kind of place where you could imagine big decisions being made behind closed doors. I slid the letter across his desk. He read it in silence, mouth set in a firm line. "Well," he said finally, setting his glasses down, "they're bluffing, at least partially. This kind of letter is designed to scare you into a settlement, but legally, they don't have much ground. They're saying he wasn't a sound mind." Henley leaned back, and I have over 20 hours of video testimony proving otherwise, recorded over the final 6 months. Your grandfather was meticulous, Jason. He anticipated this. That caught me off guard. Video testimony? Henley gave a small smile. He called it his insurance. Said he knew how your family could get when they smelled money. He even made sure to address each of them individually. I stared. "Wait, what?" He nodded. "If they decide to challenge the will, I'll be submitting it to the court. It's powerful stuff." He talks about why he's leaving you the house, what it means to him, and how he didn't trust the others not to sell it off. There's no way they come out of that looking good. I felt something loosen in my chest. For the first time since all this started, I didn't feel like I was standing alone. Grandpa had known. He had seen it coming, and he planned for it. Still, I knew this wasn't over. People like Katie and Josh, they don't back down just because the law isn't on their side. They get louder, pettier, meaner. And right on cue, they did. About a week after the letter, the smear campaign started. It was subtle at first. A couple of coincidental run-ins at the grocery store where people gave me odd looks. Then I saw it. Katie had posted a long, vague status on Facebook, something about how some people will manipulate the elderly for personal gain and how it's heartbreaking to watch a family fall apart because of greed. I didn't respond, not publicly, but I took screenshots. Every word, every comment. And when Josh posted a photo of Grandpa's house with the caption, "Shame this old place is being wasted," I saved that too. Then came the drop-ins. A cousin I hadn't seen in years suddenly wanted to catch up. A neighbor I barely knew knocked on my door to check on me. One of Katie's old high school friends messaged me saying, "Just wanted you to know your sister's really hurting." I kept smiling, nodding, pretending like I didn't see the pattern, but inside I was keeping score. Then one night, things crossed a line. It was past 11 p.m. I was getting ready for bed when I heard a bang against the side of the house. Not loud enough to be a break-in, but enough to make me freeze. I checked the cameras. Someone had egged the house. 4 eggs, one after the other, all hitting the west wall, right below Grandpa's old bedroom window. The figure ran off after the last throw. Hoodie pulled up, face obscured. But the gait, the way he ran, it was Josh. I'd bet my life on it. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in Grandpa's recliner, staring at the dark ceiling, running scenarios through my head. Legal action, restraining orders, public exposure. I had the receipts, the video, the lawyer, everything. But I realized something. I didn't want to just win. I wanted them to understand, to feel what they were doing, not just to me, but to Grandpa, to everything he built. And I had just the way to do it. So I waited. I didn't reply to the texts. I didn't confront Josh. I didn't clean the eggs off the house until the morning, when the sun had baked them into the siding, making it clear for all the neighbors to see. Then I sent out my own invitation. A family talk, this time at Grandpa's house. The same living room, the same worn carpet, the same fireplace where we used to hang our stockings. When they arrived, Katie, Josh, my parents, I greeted them with calm professionalism. No yelling, no accusations. I even had snacks. Lemon bars. Grandpa's favorite. Katie seemed amused. Josh looked smug. My mom just looked tired. "Why'd you call us here?" Dad asked. I nodded toward the coffee table. On it sat a laptop and a small speaker. "I thought we could clear the air," I said, but this time with someone else in the room. I hit play. Grandpa's voice filled the room. Calm, steady, clear. "If you're watching this," he said, "it means I've passed, and I expect some people in this room aren't too happy with my decisions." I didn't look at their faces. I didn't need to. I left my house to Jason because I trust him, not just to keep it intact, but to keep the family from tearing itself apart over it. If you're upset, that's fine. But don't pretend this is about fairness. This is about greed. And if you try to take this from him, you'll answer to me, even from the grave. The room was silent. Then Grandpa addressed them one by one. Katie, Josh, even my parents. He spoke calmly, even kindly, but he didn't pull punches. He talked about their patterns, their choices, the reasons why he'd made the decision he did. And then the screen went black. I stood. No more letters, no more threats. "You want to take this to court? Be my guest." But I have all of this documented. The harassment, the break-ins, the smear campaigns. And if you so much as step on this property again without my permission, I will press charges. I looked around the room. Now, if you actually want to talk like family, really talk, I'm open to that. But the next move is yours. No one said anything. Katie stood slowly. Her jaw was tight, but her eyes, there was something else there. Maybe guilt, maybe regret. I couldn't tell. She left without a word. Josh followed. Less graceful, muttering something under his breath. My parents lingered. My mom looked at the photo on the wall. She sighed. "He always did love that chair," she said softly. I nodded. "Yeah, he did." And then they were gone. But that wasn't the end, because a few days later, I got a phone call from someone I hadn't heard from in years. Someone with a very different stake in this whole story. And what they told me changed everything. Let me take you back to that phone call. It was Aunt Diane, Grandpa's younger sister. We hadn't spoken in a few years. She lives 2 states over and doesn't do the whole family drama thing, but she and Grandpa used to talk weekly. "Jason," she said, her voice calm but clipped. "I heard what's happening. Katie called me, told me her side of it. Said you were trying to steal the house." I didn't even respond. I just waited. "I knew she was lying," Diane continued, "because your grandfather called me the day he finalized the will. Said he was doing something that would cause a ruckus and that I should stay far away from the fallout." My pulse picked up, but he also asked me to keep a few things safe. Things he didn't want anyone else getting their hands on. He gave me a small metal lockbox the last time I visited. Told me to mail it to you after his funeral if things started getting ugly. Guess what I just dug out of my closet? Within a week, the box was in my hands. Inside were 5 things. A notarized letter from Grandpa reaffirming the legitimacy of the will. An old cassette tape labeled, "Let them hear this if they try anything." Copies of photos and texts between Josh and some shady investor friends looking to buy Grandpa's land before he passed. A list of maintenance tasks Grandpa had me do around the house over the past 2 years. Every time I visited, he'd have me fix something, paint something, measure something. That list was dated and signed. And finally, a sealed envelope labeled, "To be delivered to Jason's attorney if the family sues." This man, I swear, he played 5 moves ahead, even when he was 90. I called Mr. Henley immediately. We went over everything in that box. And with a grin, he said they picked the wrong chessboard. So here's what I did. I didn't wait for them to file the lawsuit. I went on offense. I had Henley draft a cease and desist for the harassment, and we made it very clear. If they moved forward with any legal action, we would not only countersue for emotional distress and defamation, but we'd also submit the entire package, including the cassette tape and investor messages, to the court. What was on the tape, you ask? A conversation Grandpa recorded between him and Josh during one of their visits. Josh had casually suggested getting rid of the house after Grandpa passed, saying, "We could all use a chunk of that money. I bet Jason won't mind splitting it." Grandpa chuckled and said, "I'm still alive, boy. And don't count on Jason giving up that house. He's got more backbone than you think." They thought they were playing checkers. Grandpa set them up for chess. When they got the letter, everything stopped. No lawsuit, no more visits, not even a whimper on social media. They went quiet like someone flipped a switch. Katie deactivated her Facebook. Josh moved out of state a month later, probably to dodge the embarrassment. My parents, they never apologized directly, but my mom sent a card a few months later with just 2 words, "I'm sorry." I didn't write back. Because here's the thing. Boundaries are important, and love doesn't mean tolerating abuse dressed up as family loyalty. I kept the house, every inch of it. I renovated it slowly, turned Grandpa's study into my work-from-home office, planted his favorite tomatoes in the backyard. Even though I have no clue what I'm doing, and they look sad most of the time. But it's home now. My home. And not because of the deed, not because of the will, but because someone I loved and respected believed in me enough to protect me, even after he was gone. Grandpa didn't just leave me a house. He left me peace, and I won't let anyone take that.